Containment Episode 4 with Silence and Tears. This episode kind of amped things up, going off of the last one where Leo's news kind of spread out to everyone, and it's kind of kicked off like the first attempted evacuation of a bunch of people. And in this episode, we have quite a few extra things happening. I feel like, even though of course it's split because it's still a lot of stuff going on inside, I felt like this one was actually a really cool episode because there was so much stuff going on outside, because we got to see a lot of Lex, Leo, and Xander, pre-ending at least when Xander finally made it in. And I thought that was actually kind of cool because, Xander's storyline kind of picked up early on when he's trying to get in and figure out what's happening with Teresa. And then he still attempts to get in, and he does in this episode, which really surprised me because, as much as he wanted to get there, and I understood, and that's why Leo helped him, there were just so many risks, and plus he also wanted a favor to make sure his friends were alive, which of course he found out they weren't by the end. But it was still such a stupid decision to make because it's one of those things where, just like people escaping, and I mentioned this last time, it was kind of the exact same thing where it's like, oh, I'm safe right now, but going from point A to point B, you have no idea what's happening. And, in his case, it was a million times safer than actually the last episode, where there were actually a bunch of people trying to escape all at one time, and he was just one person trying to get in. So it was very different, and it was much safer for him. But who knows what could have happened there? He could have gotten infected along the way, and it could have gone bad. And we don't know. I mean, on day 13, they specifically showed a couple characters, and I don't remember seeing Xander. I'm pretty sure Jake, I mentioned that before, I'm pretty sure he was one of the people like dressed up as if he was military, but that may not have been him. I don't really know, but there are a couple of people missing in there, and of course, they didn't show, I don't believe they showed Jana during that scene, or any of the people she was with, so, who knows what that means, and of course Lex was on the outside, so it makes sense we wouldn't see him, but there were quite a few people missing, and Teresa was walking around, we didn't see Xander or her mother, so there are just a couple of things where it's like, they're probably going to be some of the main characters that don't make it to the end, and we just don't know how that's going to play out. But, they go through all this craziness, and Leo's dealing with Lex and how he's kind of treating him like, hey, you're basically just, the mouthpiece again and stuff. And Xander was kind of on Lex's case as well, and I was getting mad. I was like, man, everyone's kind of blaming Lex as if he's the one in complete control. It's like, it's the federal government, and they're acting like he's going along with it because that's just what he wants to do. And he has, his moment in this episode. Like, this was kind of the episode where he really was trying to detach himself from being, like, the corporate stooge and stuff. But it was one of those situations, like, he's in charge, but not really. He's just, like, the front. It would be anyone else. It would be the exact same thing. But that's what happens when you're in charge. People act like you're the only, because you are the person currently. It's as if you're the only person that could have possibly done it this way. And it's like, I feel like they're all over his case. Like, Xander was on his case. Leo's been all over his case like crazy. I'm like, man, he's getting a bunch of flack as if he's the one making all these decisions. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to stand up to, like, 3 dozen people that are far beyond my little position, as like a captain or lieutenant. Yeah, that's going to make a huge difference. So it's like, they were getting on his case, and I'm like, I understand it a little bit. Like, I see where they're coming from, because Leo's the reporter's like, I want to put the truth out there, and Xander's like, we have family and stuff on the inside, so you should kind of see where we're coming from. But they're treating him like he's just the worst person involved in the whole situation. I'm like, that's just kind of super unfair to me. So, that I kind of didn't like about it, but that's just the flack he's been getting in general. Doesn't help that he ends up having to shoot Xander, which we find out was a beanbag, because I was like, okay, I don't see any blood, so I'm not sure how they're going to play this. And it's like, oh, that makes sense, there was no blood. But you get hit with a beanbag, you wouldn't think it would hurt, but those things destroy people. Like, it's a safe way to, well, I guess depending on where you get hit, most likely it won't kill you because it's a beanbag. But that junk knocks people out, as you saw in this episode. That's real. I've seen a bunch of videos like that, and people, you get messed up with a beanbag. But he does his job. He takes Xander out. Then he has to kind of chase him down by the end of the episode, and it doesn't work. And so Xander gets inside. We get the footage of the drone, and we have more footage kind of from Leo on the inside, and Lex kind of gets a message from Jana, and it was kind of cool. I enjoyed this episode, and we had like Teresa and her mother dealing with stuff. So we have, and I said this last time, Jake should have taking those guys' guns, because I'm like, these people came in and robbed them. You should probably take their guns, because why wouldn't they come back? Like, you're not going to be there 24/7. Everybody knows that there aren't a ton of cops within the court, and that's obvious just based on sight. So, of course, they came back in this episode, and then as they're robbing the place, we have the other people come in to rob the place. So we have the hillbilly white people come in, so they try to rob them again. And it was very funny when the black people came in, because I was like, this is super stereotypical, because the hillbilly people, of course, had shotguns and rifles, which is like, every time you watch a movie or TV, the hillbilly people always have shotguns and rifles. And then the black gang comes in, and for whatever reason, they all just have submachine guns. And I'm like, that is so generic. I don't know. I'm not in a gang, so I guess every black gang has submachine guns and um, maybe just, handguns with extended clips, but it's always like that in movies. I'm like, that's just really funny. They were like double generic with it. So of course Teresa and her mom get double robbed. So they have the hillbillies get kicked out, the black gang comes in, they're kind of hunkering down in the place. They didn't just flat out rob them, they're kind of like taking over the whole place and kind of staying there, and it's like an actual gang, it's not just a couple of guys. And so Xander finally makes it at the end, and it's like, oh great, he's trapped. And then in the next episode, Xander has to go with them to kind of the food drop thing, so that I'm assuming isn't going to go too well. I've seen the next episode, so I know it doesn't go too well because a gang shows up. But, he's trapped in this situation. Who knows how long this gang is going to last, because like I said, they were bigger than the three guys that came back. So, that in itself is just more dangerous people, and they're kind of hunkered down at this point, but they've clearly made it an attempt to say, if they're with both Teresa and Xander, as well as Teresa's mom, they're going to become an important part of, basically the next 4 episodes or so. So I'm not sure how that's really going to play out. It should be interesting. I don't think they're going to make it through the entire thing, because otherwise they'd have complete control, over the food and stuff like that, because, they're going to get something, and that's just based on the trailer. I know they get something, but who knows how far, how big this group might get, and if they decide to bring other people in and stuff like that. So that's already a disaster. And then we have Jana and her people, and so they're still kind of trapped inside, and they have to figure certain things out. They try to make a phone call, which they do attempt to make, but unfortunately they have to leave a message, and then when Jana finally gets the call through, it gets cut off super quick. But we get introduced to the guy on the roof, who's basically like the building maintenance guy, and he kind of he has to kind of stay on the roof, because Janet mentions, like, I made the rule and stuff like that, so I can't really be the one to break it to add a new person in. So he's like, alright, well, you do whatever and go back to your safe room and everything. So he's on the roof, and we get introduced to him, which obviously means he'll show up, because no one ever shows up and gets introduced like, I'm this person and I have this scene and everything, and then they're gone forever. That just doesn't happen. So of course he'll be back, and of course we have everything going on with the hospital, and they've kind of, like, they did a little bit of it, and they've been doing it, I think they did probably the episode before this as well with Katie, where it's like, she's questioning certain stuff, where it's like, oh, like when she questioned the people dying before patient 0, and so she's kind of bringing up questions and things like that, and she's kind of looking into stuff, and of course kind of dealing with just a bunch of different things at once. And they haven't gone back, and I completely forgot to talk about this when I reviewed the episode, but they haven't done anything just yet about the man coming to take his son away. So I'm not sure if that's going to come back into play. Maybe the child was actually safe or something, but I don't know. It seemed really, really risky. I mean, he had blood on him, and that just seems, way too bad. It just seems like that's going to be a bad situation. But I like this episode. I thought it was cool. It's kind of, Lex kind of breaking away. Even though he's still kind of trapped in it, he's breaking away even more from kind of the bonds that he has, where it's like, I have to give these crappy speeches and say, like, oh, hey, everything's going to be fine. And we did, we cut off basically everything, because I didn't think they cut off actual phone connections, and I didn't think about it considering Teresa and Xander got cut off. I just figured, because they were doing FaceTime, that's internet based, or at least, Wi-Fi based, so it made sense that that wouldn't work. But I didn't think about the fact that Jana and Lex got cut off, which was just a normal phone call. So it didn't even occur to me that everything got cut off. They did destroy, like, all cell towers and everything. And apparently they did actually cut off like all news and everything except for this specific channel where they have Alex's basically, you know, prepared speeches playing and stuff. So I thought it was kind of cool. You know, he's telling people that they're really safe and stuff like that. And even when he talks to Xander, it's like, you know, if I let you in, it sets a precedence and stuff like that. And he's like, well, you're talking about precedents and things, which makes it seem like it's going on for a super long time. Yet you're on TV giving speeches like, oh, this will be done really fast. So which is it? And I thought that was cool. That was one of the few things, and that's mostly because it was from Lex's point of view. Where I was like, okay, you know, him kind of breaking away from it. Outside of people blaming him as if he's the one making all the decisions, this was like him, you know, fighting against everything because he's actually going through all the, you know, very minute steps where it's like we get this little thing done with the sluice, but he can't get people to go in, and so he's making like these really tiny victories, but he's doing everything he can, and now he feels like he's kind of at his breaking point where even small victories aren't occurring for him, so he's getting pushed further and further. So I like that idea, and we'll have to kind of wait and see where it goes, but I like this episode for sure. I thought it was definitely a fun episode. Pretty crazy with Xander actually making it on the inside. And then, of course, we have the gang at the market now. So, like I said, the food drop thing. So, of course, they're going to be screwing that up. And then we have just everyone else dealing with the food drop and how all that stuff's going to play out. But definitely enjoyed this episode, of course. Really want to know what you guys thought about it. So, please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to ask you guys what you think about the gang, the new gang, I guess, that's come in to kind of take over the market. Like, I want to know where you guys think what that's gonna lead to, how far it's gonna go, because it's only like 7 or 8 episodes in this whole little mini series. So they'll either last until the end, or they're gonna be dying off pretty soon. It's gotta be like one or the other. But I want to know how far you guys think it's gonna go and how this might kind of affect the rest of the series, because they're just in one spot now, but it's also a gang, so they, you know, they can end up in the other locations. Maybe not the hospital, because hospital is kind of like complete lockdown, and that seems to be like the only place where, you know, no one really leaves. So except for Jake, because obviously he kind of has to, but everyone else is like nobody comes in except for, you know, kind of like more sick people, and that's pretty much it. So I definitely want to know where you guys think the gang might go, and of course want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.